Your body runs on electricity. Every thought, every heartbeat, every flicker of motivation that gets you off the couch, all of it depends on tiny electrical signals firing across trillions of cells. And the single biggest factor determining how well those signals travel has been sitting in your kitchen this entire time: a glass of water. Chances are, the fatigue you blamed on sleep or stress or diet is actually a conductivity problem you've been ignoring for years. Think about what happens when you turn on a light switch. Electricity flows through copper wiring because copper is a conductor. The signal moves fast, clean, with minimal resistance. Now replace that copper wire with a dry stick. Flip the switch. Nothing happens. The energy is there at the source. The bulb is fine. The connection between them just can't carry the current. Your body works on the same principle. Every cell membrane acts as a tiny battery, maintaining an electrical charge called membrane potential. Ions, sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, shuttle back and forth across these membranes, generating the voltage your cells need to communicate. And every single one of those ions requires water to move. Without adequate hydration, those ions slow down. The signal degrades. Your cells are still producing energy, but the delivery system is running through a dry stick instead of copper wire. So why does nobody talk about this? Because the conversation around hydration got hijacked decades ago by sports drink companies and 8 glasses a day marketing. The advice became so generic that most people tuned it out entirely. Drink when you're thirsty. Stay hydrated. We've heard it 1,000 times. But the mechanical reason hydration matters, the actual physics of how water enables electrical conductivity in living tissue, almost never makes it into the conversation. Your blood is roughly 90% water by volume. That blood carries dissolved electrolytes, charged minerals that function as your body's electrical infrastructure. When blood volume drops even slightly from dehydration, the concentration of those electrolytes shifts. Some become too concentrated, others get flushed out faster than they should. The ratio matters enormously, and even a 2% reduction in body water throws that ratio off enough to measurably impair cognitive function and reaction time. 2%. That's the amount most people lose between waking up and their second cup of coffee. And coffee makes the whole situation worse. Caffeine is a diuretic, which means it accelerates water loss through your kidneys. So the thing most people reach for when they feel sluggish in the morning is actively deepening the conductivity problem that caused the sluggishness in the first place. You're essentially trying to jumpstart a car by draining the battery faster. But the relationship between water and energy goes deeper than blood chemistry. Every cell in your body contains structures called mitochondria. You probably remember them from school, the powerhouses of the cell. Mitochondria produce a molecule called ATP, which is the actual currency of energy your body spends on everything from blinking to running a marathon. Here's what the textbooks usually skip. The final step of ATP production requires water as a direct input. The chemical reaction literally cannot complete without it. Dehydrated cells produce less ATP. Full stop. Your mitochondria are engines, and water is part of the fuel. So when you feel that afternoon energy crash around 2 or 3 p.m., your first instinct is probably to grab a snack or another coffee. Maybe you blame your lunch. Maybe you think you need more sleep. Meanwhile, you've consumed 400 milliliters of fluid since noon and lost close to a liter through breathing, sweat, and metabolic processes. The math doesn't work. Your cells are running their engines on fumes. The connective tissue in your body tells a similar story. Fascia, the thin casing of connective tissue that surrounds every muscle, every organ, every nerve bundle, is essentially a water-based gel. When properly hydrated, fascia is slippery and flexible. Signals pass through the surrounding tissue with minimal friction. Dehydrated fascia becomes stiff and sticky. Muscles feel tight even when you haven't exercised. Joints ache for reasons you can't explain. That general sense of physical heaviness that you might attribute to aging or stress often traces back to tissue that simply lacks enough water to maintain its electrical and mechanical properties. There's a feedback loop here that makes the problem self-reinforcing. When you're dehydrated, your energy drops. When your energy drops, you move less. When you move less, you drink less, because physical activity is one of the main triggers for thirst signaling. And reduced movement also means reduced circulation, which means the water you do drink gets distributed less efficiently. You settle into a low-energy equilibrium that feels like your baseline. You start to believe this is just how much energy you have. That belief is wrong. You've adapted to a degraded state. The brain is where this gets personal. Your brain is roughly 75% water and consumes about 20% of your body's total energy budget, despite being only 2% of your mass. It's the most energy-hungry organ you have and the most sensitive to changes in hydration. Studies using brain imaging have shown that even mild dehydration, the kind you wouldn't even register as thirst, reduces activity in regions associated with focus, planning, and emotional regulation. You feel foggy, irritable, distracted. You blame your workload, your boss, your sleep schedule. The actual bottleneck might be cellular conductivity in an organ that's essentially a biological supercomputer running on water-dissolved minerals. Here's where people usually make the wrong correction. They hear, drink more water, and start chugging liters at a time. But flooding your system with plain water too quickly can actually dilute your electrolyte concentration, creating a different version of the same problem. Your cells need the water and the dissolved minerals in the right ratio. Slamming a liter of pure water in 10 minutes can trigger a sodium dilution response where your kidneys flush water even faster to protect electrolyte balance. You end up more dehydrated than before. The people who complain that they drink tons of water and still feel tired are often caught in exactly this trap. The fix is absorption rate, and absorption rate depends on three things: the presence of sodium, the presence of glucose, and the speed of intake. Small amounts of salt and sugar in water dramatically increase the rate at which your intestines can pull that water into your bloodstream. This is the entire science behind oral rehydration therapy, which the World Health Organization has called one of the most important medical advances of the 20th century. It saves millions of lives in regions where dehydration from illness would otherwise be fatal. The same principle applies to your Tuesday afternoon energy crash, just at a less dramatic scale. Temperature plays a role too. Cold water absorbs slightly faster from the stomach than room temperature water because cold triggers the stomach to move contents into the small intestine more quickly. The small intestine is where most water absorption actually happens. That instinct to drink ice water when you're hot and exhausted has a physiological basis. Your body is pushing you toward the fastest absorption pathway. Consider what all of this means for the morning routine most people follow. You wake up after 7 or 8 hours of producing no fluid intake while losing water through breathing and sweating. You're already running a deficit. You drink coffee, which accelerates water loss. You eat breakfast, which diverts blood flow to your digestive system, temporarily reducing circulation to muscles and brain. By 9 a.m., you've been awake for 2 hours and your body's electrical infrastructure is running on maybe 70% capacity. You call this not being a morning person. The conductivity math calls it predictable. The solution sounds almost too simple, and that's precisely why people dismiss it. A glass of water with a pinch of salt before your morning coffee. Consistent small sips throughout the day rather than large gulps hours apart. Eating water-rich foods, cucumbers, watermelon oranges, that deliver fluid with naturally occurring minerals at absorption-friendly ratios. Matching your water intake to your actual output, which varies wildly based on climate, activity level, altitude, and even the dryness of your office air conditioning. Critics will argue that the body's thirst mechanism handles all of this automatically. And they have a point. Thirst signaling works well under normal conditions. But normal conditions means consistent physical activity, outdoor living, and meals built around whole foods. The modern environment, temperature-controlled offices, sedentary hours, processed food, caffeine dependence, systematically suppresses and confuses thirst signals. By the time you feel thirsty in a modern context, you're already past the point where conductivity has been impaired. The warning light comes on after the damage has started. Every organ in your body is a wet electrical system. Your muscles contract because ions flow. Your thoughts form because neurons fire. Your mood stabilizes because chemical signals travel through fluid-filled gaps between cells. The infrastructure connecting all of it is water. When that infrastructure dries out even slightly, everything still functions, just slower, noisier, with more resistance. You feel it as fatigue, brain fog, stiffness, irritability. You treat the symptoms and ignore the medium they travel through. That glass of water on your desk has been sitting there for 3 hours still full, and you've been wondering why you can't focus.